Quest conference. And, Dell's been an amazing contribution to the sport, amazing contribution to the region. So really just wanted to give him a shout out for that. Dell, I don't know. I don't see your image anymore. Up there you are. I see you
I'm here.
smiling.
Gosh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And a man of many words. I won't tease you on that. All right. Well, if you see him in person, also give him a shout out and I see the accolades.
How awesome. Thank you.
If you go to the next slide, some other things, as we've been getting some of this going and some focuses around just operational updates that we're implementing with the team is this last fall in November and December, we've been working internally to operationalize some project management software. And so we're utilizing a software called Asana. I actually remember looking at this back in the day when we've looked through and tested some project management software, and we went through the evaluation again and are really kicking this out. I'd say we soft piloted it in the fall, and we've really expected the team to jump into it. I have to give Bailey props. She's really been our project management Sana guru and champion around this work. And so as she started with us, she really just jumped into this effort and got this work going. Also, and Amelia will be familiar with the other org, but we've been utilizing a AI software and company called Eddy for grant management and impact reporting. And so this is a group that we've been working with. They've actually worked with CIS as well, and Amelia has helped make the introduction to us. And there's really a few primary things we're going to do with it. One, we're going to use them to support grant writing and grant application. And then the second, we're going to do impact reporting. Kristen has been the lead on this, and she's going to give it some more details in her update. So I'm going to try to keep it short. Uh, Again, just want to shout out, we went through this year and just wrapped up in January our annual performance evaluations. And the reason I want to call this out is because with our shift in staffing with Wendy, Caroline, and Kristen all having supervisory roles this year, this has been the first time we've had joint performance evaluations and an opportunity to craft it across a leadership team. So this has just been kind of an example and an opportunity for us to continue to develop and refine how we work together as a leadership team in partnership with the rest of our staff and team. And then lastly, we have posted for a program assistant job that's going to be supporting our programs as a whole, focused primarily under the vital conditions work and the vital condition processes, and then where else we can support in our community care hub work. So we're really also looking at this point in time. This is at this current juncture, this is the only planned position we have to post this year and hire this year. But really looking at ensuring that we have an adequate capacity and base to support our teams underneath us in all of our programs. A few other quick things I wanted to just bring up as well, and I think I'm going to insert them here, is that Thriving Together was approached in September to put on an immigrant and refugee symposium, asked to replicate symposiums that have happened in Southwest Washington and the Tri-Cities. So we are going to be hosting one this spring. The connection came, I'm going to read some of the notes so I don't miss anything. Connection came from DOH contract, but key collaborators is someone from CHPW. After getting overview, we reached out to regional partners we thought should provide input. So there's been a lot of support from a local planning group that includes CAFE, Hands in Hand Immigration, UNA, Moses Lake Community Health Center, Molina, CHPW, Central Washington Justice for Our Neighbors. And so that work is in planning. I'm just going to kind of leave it to the basics. I'll say in any of these symposiums or work, there's a sensitivity around sharing too much information out publicly. And so I wanted the board to be aware if they heard that we were supporting and hosting that you had that information. And if you have any other questions, you are welcome to reach out to me individually. If you go to the next slide. Um, since it has been since the start of December that we actually had a board meeting, just wanted to also call out that our team also, I said contracting was a big portion of the last too much, but our team also knows how to have fun. And so this was a picture of the team from the holiday Christmas party. And to be honest, in a time where we've been getting increasingly busy, a number of us had higher staff travel time with us as staff. It's more and more important for us to get together and spend that time just getting to know each other personally and having fun together, not just doing business. And so really want to give a shout out to our fun committee, which has included Mariah, Teresa, Bailey, Morgan. Am I missing anyone? Bailey or Teresa?
I don't think,
I'm not. Go ahead.
no.
All right. I'm not included or invited to that committee either. Um, but just really appreciate what the team does. That just sense of culture, partnership, and getting to know each other is important to develop as a team. And so many times that gets missed, and they are kind of the glue that helps us keep doing that. If you go to the next slide, just to provide some broader step back in some statewide updates that are going on at the start of this year. Our team has had a chance to have a number of conversations with the Washington Economic Justice Alliance out of the Department of Social and DSHS, which I'm struggling with the acronym on my mind right now. But it's been a group that's been focusing on poverty reduction and really leaning into the vital conditions and belonging at a state level. And so we've been having conversations over the course of the fall, and we're going to be engaging a little bit more over the course and start of this year about the work that they're doing statewide around belonging and the vital conditions and how it can intersect with the work here locally. We've also talked with the state team to have them come and present to the board. Surprisingly enough, they actually had a retreat out in Leavenworth about the same weekend we were having our retreat out there, and we just crossed paths briefly, but we didn't get to connect fully. Um, Other quick thing to update is the accountable communities of health are going to be supporting some outreach with the Washington Department of Agriculture focused on their food assistance programs. And so this came through our coalition of ACHs to support basically helping survey and gather information and community feedback on how the Washington Department of Agriculture does their food assistance programs. They actually, in our community, work really closely with Maria Hines as well. And so we've had a few conversations with Maria. Rena, I don't know if the Community Action Councils also work closely with the Department of Agriculture, but I'd be curious from your perspective how you all intersect with them.
We do. We receive several grants from the Department of Ag to run the food bank, which supports 9 food pantries in the county.
Yeah, so I'll probably, once we get that contract and outreach finalized, Rena, I'll be reaching out to you and other community action councils to share a little bit of what they're asking for us. We're going to connect with Maria to do the same. It's not a large contract, but for us, it's just really more about building that relationship with the Department of Ag to understand as we move forward in this work how ACHs can be part of it. And then, of course, Blake will be on later, and so he'll share more about our Thriving Together Hill Day. But last month, we had a CACH Day in Olympia where we met with the governor's office as a coalition of ACHs, and we met with a few state agencies as well. And this may come up in Blake's update as well, but the coalition of ACHs has a legislative agenda, and you'll see that attached in the board packet. Um, Slightly variable from what we have in our region for Thriving Together, because a lot of the work of the coalition right now is focused around the 1115 waiver work and community care hub work. And so a lot of our legislative asks and priorities or work around that has that as a primary focus. where our region has really leaned more into how are we supporting advocacy around the vital conditions. If you go to the next slide, some quick regional updates I really just wanted to call out for the board's attention. If you go to the next slide, and I didn't see Joey on here. Is Joey on here at all? I'm on a small computer screen, so
Joey, he was planning on joining later because
that's
you were
I
going to
knew.
go after Manuel so he could join later.
All right, I knew I had a reason for
Uh-huh.
that, so I couldn't remember in the moment. I was going to have Joey share some of the statistics around an Arcan vending machine. But two things just to call out for our Grant County or any county board members. We still have two vending machines that we have stored in Grant County that we're currently looking for placement. Those were when those came into storage when the sleep center in Moses Lake closed down, as well as we ended up removing the one from the Moses Lake Public Library. So we haven't had an opportunity to find locations for that. We've connected with Moses Lake Community Health Center, who's expressed interest but hasn't finalized anything. And so if anyone has any ideas or thoughts or wants a vending machine, we do have two available. If it's outside of Moses Lake, we'll just have to figure out transport, but I have a feeling we can get that all put together. Uh, the other thing that has come up, Joey's been connecting with an organization out on the East Coast, and they are able to supply for free other items that can go into the vending machines. And so you can see really examples of resources below on different things that can also be supplied, and we are evaluating what items we also could put in the vending machines. I think one of the questions we wanted to share or open up space for today is to see if there's anything on this list that board members have any concerns about us supplying in those machines. We wanted to be, when we went ahead and we did the Narcan vending machines, we wanted to share that with the board so they were aware what we were doing and some of the practices and policies around that. We also know that the vending machines themselves have had conflict in different areas depending on people's perspectives. So as we've looked at expanding the offerings and resources in those vending machines, we wanted to share examples of things with the board to make sure that there wasn't anything we were adding to those machines that felt surprising or of concern for you. So I'll give a moment to see if anything stands out on that list for any board members that they think we should dive deeper into. And if not, you are all welcome to also send me an email personally if there's anything that shows up that's a concern. If not, our plan is really to proceed forward with looking at what we can get to fit and what would be the processes to do that. So I'll give a quick moment if anyone wants to flag or raise any concerns.
John, this is
Yeah.
Emilio. The example of resources, will these be included in the Narcan machines or is this a different setup?
It would be included in the machine. So right now, they're pretty much a standard vending machine that's full primarily of Narcan. So we would be basically replacing a few of those rows with resources. Some of it's going to come to the machines are structured to fit really size and shape boxes. And so we'd have to figure out what can be done with packaging and that works with the functionality of the machines. But ultimate plan would be one or two of the rows might be taken up with other supplies.
Yeah, because when I look at the list, my only logistic, my mind goes to sharps disposal containers and how how those would be maintained. That kind, but that's everything in the list looks pretty kosher
Yeah.
to me. I don't know to others, but it looks pretty, actually, and I think it's a very good idea, actually. Not for Moses Lake, of course, but
Ah,
I'm from Moses, so I think I've argued with my younger brothers a few times, So anyway,
This is Dell. I also, looking at the list, I think would be terrific additions to the vending machines. I think it makes sense. Um, I also think as far as the sharps disposal containers, I'm guessing that's just the containers that people would have a red container they could take home with them that they could keep the sharps in, and then they would
Hmm.
dispose of that. So I can see that as being a potential of a resource that's added as well.
And there could always be the option of where some of these machines are placed where there's a front desk individual to have that available at the front desk. But it is, Emilio, to your point, we might, just because of packaging or structure, there might be some things we may be able to fit or not fit. And then once we go through that, we'd have to evaluate if it'd ever be worth adjusting the vending machines in some way, shape, or form.
The other thing, I think it's probably part of the evaluation of adding these things to the Narcan vending machine would be use. So if someone's monitoring or keeping track of, what items are actually used and what are just taking up space, and we may have
Hmm.
issues with not having enough Narcan or something like that. So I,
I
I,
do,
I guess it's just it's not, I don't even know if that's a question or just a statement, but I would think that somebody's monitoring that use.
yeah, and they've monitored Narcan usage, and typically there hasn't been an issue managing that in the sites, but as you reduce the number in there, that's something you're right, we'd have to track. And this would be another logistical supply gathering thing as well. And so we'd have to think of storage and transportation of the supplies.
True.
That's why we have Bailey and Teresa to help Joey figure out all the logistics. Sorry, Bailey and Teresa. All right, if you go to the next slide. Um, just speaking a little bit about contracts, just wanted to reshare this last year we did do the Vital Conditions Grant Awards, and those were some of the contracts that we were wrapping up this last year. And so you can see here the differing areas where grantees were awarded the vital conditions grants. The red pins are the eight we fully awarded, and then the purple pins are the ones that were able to receive partial awards because we bumped it up to just under $500,000. And then if you go to the next slide, this just kind of gives a sense of the organizations that were funded, and each color right above the organization logo is the vital condition that was funded as part of that. And I just wanted to re-emphasize this on top of the last slide, because really, as we continue to shift and look at the way we're doing work, what you can continue to see is the variety or organizations that intersect in our network and are entering into contracts with us. And really with a shift in focus of funding more and more in those vital conditions for health and well-being. So, we've been on kind of a steady trajectory over the years to move from, because I see Lori and Dell on screen, from a clinical health transformation organization really leaning into those vital conditions and supporting those organizations that were leaning into those vital conditions for health and well-being. And so this is just kind of a snapshot of a few of those contractors, or really when I'm saying up to 70, this is almost 25% of them in this segment that are really coming from those smaller grassroots organizations that we're trying to support. And as we move into this next year, we're going to continue to try to lean into and focus on this. Um, Next slide. I know I saw Naomi jump in, but I also told her we'd reserve some time for her at the end of the meeting with some updates. But again, just really a shout out of what Naomi has been doing with our partnership with the Colville tribes And really, I feel like since she's been in that position and over the course of the last few months, our relationship has continued to grow and refine and get better. And so, one, I just want to give her a quick shout out for that in this space. And then I'm going to allow her some time at the end of the month, or not the end of the month, the end of the meeting to provide more of a detailed update.
John,
John, I can go now
I
if
was
you
gonna
need
say,
me
I think
to.
she's ready now because she's driving. So,
Oh, you can jump in right now.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. I'm sorry, I just pulled over and I can just give a quick update. I don't have any cool slides or anything like that to show you. But I yeah, okay, I'll just get going. Thank you for the shout out, John, for one. I want to let everybody know I absolutely love my job. I'm going to start it off with this because there is so much work that is already happening within the tribe where I can see it aligns with thriving together and where we can come in and help in some way. One example I'm going to give is I'm actually on my way home from Spokane. I sat in an insurance company's office for 2 hours today trying to advocate for the tribe and make that connection, and I'm so excited for that to finally move forward and for a name and a phone number. And I was that person who got to go sit in there and do that for the tribe's new HCA, so that they can talk to somebody. And those are the kind of things where I'm able to help out, where they might not have the bandwidth or the capacity or have the connections to do so. So there's an example of something that happened today, hence the reason I'm on the side of the road right now. um Other things that were going on right now, and I'm going to make this really quick. If you have any questions at the end, please let me know. I'm excited working with the jail right now, and we are working on a reentry coach stuff. We're having meetings that are moving forward that were halted previously, and we're moving forward with that. Actually, the tribal jail now has a programs director and a reentry coordinator. So excited to connect some folks with them advance. I can go into more detail once that gets moving forward. They asked for potential telehealth in the jail, so connected them with Wendy. I am also working with the North Star Planet Youth Academy and with all of the tribe, and working on youth programs to well, North Star Initiative. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's the Icelandic model. Really excited. That's moving forward in all 4 districts with the tribe, and I'm working with their coordinator really closely with that. I was able to go into Pascal Sherman Indian School and do a presentation on how important it is for the kids to just be real on their surveys that they'll be doing next month. And we're going to be doing some short videos of some leaders within our community to help the kids understand how important it is for their voice to be heard and for them to be honest on these surveys so that we can build programs and move forward with some healthy community activities and so forth in the future. I don't know. I'm really excited for the North. I'm a big youth person. Yay, youth. Plus, tribal council all said that youth needs to be a big focus as well, with me assisting in those programs. Which brings me to the relationship building. I don't I I have a lot of relationships from previous networks and previous positions where I know a lot of people within the tribe, and that has been vital for this role, and already having those and being like, here we go. Now let's move forward. I've been connecting the Okanagan Chai. Hopefully, we are going to be presenting. I'm going to be helping Kelly be presenting to tribal councils soon about what the Chai is and get tribal voice involved. Really excited for that relationship building opportunity. The Nature Immersion Program, assisting with them to be presenting to tribal council because many of them didn't even know who they were or what they're doing. And wow, why do we not know this? Why are we not assisting them? How can we help them? They are impactful to our kids. Let's move forward with this. Also, going to be moving forward with fingers crossed. The tribe asked me to help them find funding for transitional housing, and our local fire is actually doing transitional housing work right now. So going to connect those programs as well. The Food Council, I'm serving on the Food Council to try with the food sovereignty efforts, connecting local farmers with the tribe, and actually getting some fresh fruits and vegetables. The food distribution program does not have any cold storage right now. So there is no fresh food that's being given out to any of our membership at this time. So trying to work with local farmers to make that happen until they can get their building up and going. Also working closely with the New Colville Tribal HCA and her assistant to bring some presentations to the tribe from MCOs. I made a connection with BHT, and we're going to be meeting soon, talking about partnerships and how we can serve the tribe as a whole. Incorporating tribal perspective into the civic leadership model that's happening with North Central Washington Foundation, Community Foundation, and Claire. Excited for that. I could probably keep going, but I told you this would be quick and sweet. So those are my highlights for now. Really excited for the future of partnering, assisting, and working alongside tribal programs for things they're already doing and how they can align with the vital conditions that we are all working so hard to utilize, to recognize, and to build healthy communities. There's my spiel, John. Thank you.
And just a highlight, and you heard it in Naomi's update, but reality is it's also interconnecting our partners that we're doing this work together with how they are intersecting and working with the Colville tribe. So the ripple effect of Naomi in that position really isn't just for the work we're doing directly at Thriving Together, but really how our partners are intersecting. So just want to give her a huge shout out. And then I'm going to go quickly, next slide. I just wanted to kind of center some things with the board as we enter into this year, and I'll try to be a little quick on it. But next slide. You're really hearing the theme and setting the stage, and as we think about how we're engaging as a board and doing this work, always remembering keeping our mission at the center and our vision at the center. So really, again, just a re-emphasis of our mission to advance health and well-being by unifying partners, supporting collaboration, and enabling systems to change, with ultimately that vision of all people and places thriving, no exception. So as we go throughout this year, as we're talking about things we really want to discuss, strategies we want to move into as a board, I want to put that as a focus. And then if you go to the next slide, again, with those three key strategic priorities focused as an organization around improve and connect systems of care, inspiring regional and local collective action, and strengthening belonging and civic muscle. So really, how are we intersecting and doing our work that really leans into those three strategic focuses? And then next slide. Which I want to emphasize that as we entered into our discussion in November and December on how we intersect with the work around urgent needs, specifically with food assistance and SNAP benefits. We didn't share this slide with the board, but as we were going through to summarize some of the conversation, I saw a lot of these key elements already come up in the board discussion around we're not there to provide direct service, we're not there to deliver groceries, but what is our ultimate role as an organization? And how do we advocate? How do we convene? How do we support building capacity? How do we collaborate? How do we connect people together with each other and with state entities? So as we are doing our work and we lean into the role of thriving together, how are we leaning into and how are we measuring our impact under these key roles of an organization? And I'll let you quickly click through the next slide to the last. Next one. And so you're going to see in your board packet a recap from the December discussion summarizing when we had the question, when urgent needs arise in our communities or among partners, how does Thriving Together respond in a way that adds value without overextending or replacing existing systems? And so we took the summary from the board discussion, and we really summarized that in a few key things and outlines of what Thriving Together's role should be. And then we put together a really basic flow chart that I can utilize for the organization as these things arise to figure out how we can intersect and operate, specifically trying to stay to those key principles and the role of our organization. So I encourage you all to look through that document in the board packet, read through it. For the exec committee, I'll also share it back out for you all to provide any specific feedback on it as well. For the sake of me being over on time, I don't think we'll delve into it today, but if there's any refinements, we can bring back to another board meeting. And then if you go to the next slide, just a few things to keep reminding. And as I was getting prepared for this meeting and starting to look through the year, really a call out that we actually did a really good job putting together some key things to achieve as a board in 2026 and some key timelines and highlights that came from our board retreat. So you're going to see that one pager in the packet as well of really what are some of those key things we're going to try to achieve over the course of the year, including things focused in Q1 of this year, Q2, Q3, and going into Q4. And we'll have a little bit of time at the end of the meeting to start asking what key things, as you look through this, you think about our mission and vision and the things coming up throughout the course of the year. What are some additional things we want to make sure are getting brought to the board for discussion in 2026 and at the board retreat? And as we look at the board retreat in March, you can see really at the bottom some of the things that were identified to focus and bring at the March board retreat. Which reminds me, because Teresa was good to message me, I believe I'm supposed to ask if anyone needs a room for the March retreat, you need to let Teresa know. And Teresa, was there anything else I was missing to ask?
Not on that, but since Joey's not on, he was also going to mention about the documentary screening. We'll be sending an invite for all board members plus one. So just be on the lookout for that. It'll be on the evening of March 18th. But I'll send an invite out with more information on that.
Perfect. And then you can scroll through next slide and the next. So this is all in your board packet. And then again, just some key dates coming up for the course this year to give you a sense of what's going on over the next 2 months. So our Hill Day, February 18th, 19th. We have a grant writing and essential workshop on the 19th as well. We have a learning session February 26th for the vital conditions. Our board retreat March 9th. The coalition will actually be presenting at the North Central Washington Rural Health Conference on community care hubs on March 11th. And then, as Teresa said, March 19th, it's going to be the evening, we're going to do a private screening of the Hope Dealers documentary.
I have the 18th for that, but I'll double check. So
It's a Wednesday, right?
yeah.
All
March
right.
18th. Yeah.
March 18th. I am 1 day off. Hopefully everything else is not 1 day off. And I think that's it for me. Any questions? Any comments from the board? All right, I will turn it back to. And Linda, if Manuel is not on, Lori has agreed to lead the governance section.
Okay, I was going to ask that because I was scrolling through our participants on my feed and I'm not seeing Manuel here. So do we want to, since we're at 250, almost at 250, which is Blake's presentation, do we want to jump to Blake and then do the
That
board election?
I think that's fine. Blake, you're on, correct?
I'm on.
Yeah, I saw it
Lori,
here.
Lori, you're just gonna be in the waiting in anticipation.
I'm good. I'll read it again and again and again.
She'll be awesome. All right, Blake.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'll be fairly quick today. I just wanted to give you a bit of an update on what I've been up to in Olympia on Thriving Together's behalf, and then also just a very brief session overview, just kind of the basic landscape and some of the different revenue and policy issues being discussed. So first off, on engagement with the coalitions for health improvement, leading into this session. As a reminder, I think we discussed this in the past, but each coalition for health improvement held a roundtable discussion with their different legislative delegations. So this included the 7th district, which covers most of Okanagan or part of Okanagan County, the 12th district and Chelan County, and then the 13th district, which touches Grant and Douglas counties. And these roundtables were an opportunity for each CHI to discuss their own priority issue areas that were developed within the Thriving Together list of guiding policy principles document that our legislative steering committee drafted and adopted, or committee drafted 2 years ago now, and that was adopted by this board before the 2025 legislative session. Those were really great discussions. Some of the CHIs had kind of themselves more broad policy agendas to discuss. Some had very specific policy items. And so we've been engaging with the CHIs throughout this session to put some of those policy areas to work and lead to engagement in this legislative session. Most recently, I met with the Okanagan CHI. They have identified and prioritized 5 specific policy bills and fiscal bills and asked me to join their meeting last week to share some guidance on how to provide effective public testimony. That's something that their members are very interested in engaging with, not only affiliated and with the CHI itself, but also on any issue policy areas that they might be monitoring and bills they're tracking on their own with their own organizations or other organizations they are involved with. So following that meeting, I put together a list, just a guide on how to sign up for testimony and some tips on what is the most effective content to have within and how to communicate during public testimony and time guidance and things like that that I'd be very happy to share with this board. I also, rather than going into very specific and frankly quite wonky policy details on all of these different pieces of legislation that we're tracking, I have been sending reports every week, just with a general session update and some highlighted bills, as well as a more comprehensive bill tracker out to our steering committee, the Thriving Together Legislative Steering Committee, and would be happy to send that to this board or have John or staff follow up with everybody with a copy of the most recent one, just for your reference and for context. But where we are this session, this is what we call a short session. So in odd numbered years, our longer sessions are 120 days, and in even numbered years, they are 60 days. That makes up our biennium, and our legislature is constitutionally obligated to balance our state budgets within that time frame. So legislation, when it's introduced, it has to first go through a committee process. There are 2 types of committees in the state legislature, policy and fiscal. So one really big milestone that we passed last Wednesday, was our first policy committee cutoff. So that's any bill that has been not voted out of a policy committee in their house of origin by that time. So House bills in the House, Senate bills in the Senate would now be considered dead, an affectionate term, if they were not passed out of their policy committee by last Wednesday. So bills that are still alive then would move to a fiscal committee if they have a budget impact or a cost, or if they do not, if they don't have a cost or they might not meet the certain threshold that's set by leadership to trigger this process, then they would just go directly to what's called the Rules Committee, which is the last stop before those bills can be considered to be pulled out to the floor of their House of origin for a full vote to be either the House or the Senate. So in a very short session, and I should mention that our fiscal committee cutoff is actually today. So I am in the office not wearing my suit jacket because these committees can be up to 8 hours long. So I've been watching our TV Washington, TVW, which is our local C-SPAN here. I've been watching these fiscal committees all morning, just keeping an eye on bills that are moving out of fiscal committees today. As you can imagine, in these short sessions, there's really compressed timelines all across the board. Usually a lot longer time between cutoffs in our longer sessions, but this one, there's only 5 days between the first policy committee cutoff and the first fiscal committee cutoff. There is an exception to this process that's important to note, and any bills that are considered to be the acronym NTIB, or necessary to implement the budget, are not subject to these deadlines. These are bills that, if they were to pass, would affect how much money there is in the state to influence the budget. So speaking of the budget, just an overall kind of fiscal context. Again, like last year, this session has very much been shaped around budget constraints, multi-billion dollar deficits. The fiscal impact of bills is kind of becoming increasingly the gatekeeper for that legislation moving forward or not. So a lot of bills that have been introduced, even if they're policy bills, but may have a bit of a cost associated with them, have been significantly narrowed or delayed or completely reframed so they can continue to survive. And what we've seen is that a lot of proposals that don't have a clear funding path or justification for that kind of funding outside of the budget process have really been struggling to move. And so budget negotiations, they're going to continue to drive our end of session outcomes and will probably be occurring right up until the very last days of session. One thing that is on everyone, or especially on the majority's mind, I should say, is, we know that we have to make some cuts at the state level to meet the moment of this budget deficit, but there is a desire with the majority to also raise additional revenue to try to close that gap. And one of those bills that has been discussed over the interim months between session was finally formally introduced last week in both the House and the Senate, and it's being referred to as the millionaire's tax. So this would propose a 9.9% tax on a household's adjusted gross income of over $1 million. And so to clarify, that's a tax on every dollar of income earned after 1 million. And that would estimate that the estimate is to raise about $3.7 billion annually should that be implemented. But there is a bit of a delay in the collections of that. So this bill, this new policy, if it were to be passed, wouldn't start generating revenue until I think 2029. So it's more of a long-term adjustment and goal of the majority rather than a solution to meet some of these immediate budget shortfalls. So we are likely to still see a significant amount of programmatic reduction, specifically in our operating budget. This bill would split that new revenue 80-20, so 80% would be going to the general fund and 20% would be going towards tax relief programs, things like the Working Families Tax Credit and certain repeals to our state sales tax. There's a very strong legislative Democratic support, I should say. Governor Ferguson has endorsed the policy idea of a millionaire's tax, but is currently rejecting the version that has been introduced by House and Senate Democrats. He's just cited that he still has affordability concerns. He wants to see even more of that revenue generated to go towards direct taxpayer relief. So in addition to the Working Families Tax Credit, which he would like to see greater than 20%, he also has said that he would like to see business and occupation taxes for small businesses reduced. He'd like to see certain sales taxes removed or exempt from products like diapers or other baby products. And so I think while, Democrats have their own internal disagreements between the legislative and executive branch around this, still the Senate and House Republicans, by and large, are completely opposed to this proposal altogether. They do think that this will clear the path for future income tax on even lower incomes. And to an extent, those concerns have been validated. When asked about the potential for a broader income tax in the future, our House Majority Leader did make clear, that is not the intent of our proposal this year, but they cannot make any commitments that would bind any future legislatures about any revenue decisions that they might make. So when I'm talking about all this income tax, some of you might, like a lot of people in the state, are asking, what doesn't the state constitution it prohibits that? And it's been struck down by the Supreme Court multiple times when attempted in the past few years, or in the past decades rather. So why is an income tax in the state of Washington even part of the policy and revenue conversation this year? And it's the way that the bill is written is that it would be a tax on, again, every dollar earned above $1 million. So proponents are saying, no, this is an excise tax for those that are receiving a very high income. It's not a property tax or a traditional income tax, and it's being modeled after our state capital gains tax, which was recently upheld by the Supreme Court. And so this bill is very narrowly scoped. It delays the implementation of this tax policy, and that's by design. It's designed to help strengthen its legal defensibility. It would also allow some time for the inevitable court challenges that would be coming down the pike should it be passed. I think supporters they acknowledge that legal risks. They also think that this is a real test case that builds on recent precedent and just helps move forward the broader tax reform debate. So the revenue situation, it's far from settled. It's going to very likely continue until the very end of session. You have advocates and policymakers on both sides of this, both for and against, or somewhere in the middle. But what we have noticed is that there does seem to be an agreement in this recognition just all across the board that the state of Washington has one of the most regressive tax systems in the country, and there is a desire, I think, across the political spectrum to see that fixed. I think there's different ideas of how to do that, but there is that true recognition, and the fact, the low and there is a very real fact that low and middle income Washingtonians, working people here, are disproportionately burdened by our tax system when compared to higher earners. We all pay the same sales tax. We pay lodging taxes when we travel for our kids' ball games and sporting events. Small businesses pay B&O taxes. Those costs are equal on paper and in percentage, but not equal when it comes to how it impacts, working families and people. So it'll be really interesting to see what ultimately happens here. But I do think, it's clear that this is the most contentious and hot button issue facing the legislature this session. So wanted to take some time just to brief everyone on it. I guess the biggest takeaway is that of this session altogether is that this the landscape and the general vibe is that we've shifted from idea and policy generation, starting from scratch, to a lot of triage and execution, just trying to get through this session in a way that minimizes budget impact. That fiscal viability for different, pieces of legislation going through the process is going to be, it's very central to every conversation. And a lot of these final decisions are really going to hinge on fiscal committee action here in the next day. And then when this process repeats itself in the opposite chamber, which bills, what's going to be designated as necessary to implement the budget, and then ultimately what is going to be the outcome of some of our end of session budget negotiations. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and keeping the Legislative Steering Committee with Thriving Together and in turn the board up to date on all of these bill trackers and weekly reports that I'm sending out. On an exciting note, in a little bit happier of a note, we are doing another hill climb this year with the Thriving Together folks. There's going to be a delegation of, I think, 20 or just over 20 people, representatives from each coalition for health improvement, traveling to Olympia next Wednesday and Thursday, meeting with members of the 7th and 12th and 13th district legislative delegations. We're going to have a tour of the state capitol while they're in town, joint reception on Wednesday evening with the North Sound ACH, and meeting with the Healthcare Authority the next morning. And we did, Teresa and John, I just confirmed this. We are going to be meeting again this year with Secretary of State Steve Hobbs, which is a really fun and interesting meeting. Last year, we didn't talk a lot about policy, but we sure learned a lot about his Dungeons and Dragons collection and a bunch of different samurai swords and other things that he collects in his office. But it was a really great experience to be there. And then pending a request with Governor Ferguson's deputy policy director, who also has his healthcare related portfolio. That's former State Senator David Frocht. So really looking forward to hosting the group here in Olympia next week. It's going to be a really fun time. And with that, I think I will just stop there and answer any questions that anyone might have, or try to. Okay.
I just want to say thanks for the bill tracker. That is very, very helpful.
Of course, yeah, it's definitely hefty, and it's a very long, very comprehensive document that will continue to dwindle down in size as bills continue to die. But it's very good to have our eyes on all of the legislation moving through that's concerning the vital conditions.
Veronica?
We have a question in the room.
Hey Blake, I just had a quick question. If the owl wants to see me, here I am. Hey, I was just curious, this document that's on the screen, is this our finalized, beautified version? Okay, did we get that? I've been in Hawaii, I don't know what's been going on. So I just wanted to double check because I'll make sure to get that back out to the group if that's our final
Well,
beautified.
we'll share it out as a separate document
Cool.
today or tomorrow morning. We'll send this, the update bill tracker, and then Blake's policy testimony guide, and we'll send that to the whole board so it's all kind of in a packet if you want to forward it on.
Sweet. Thank you.
And just for the board, again, I think Blake said this at the start, but our goal has ultimately been trying to identify some of the key policy issues from each of the coalitions for health improvement and boil it up into more of a regional digest, with really the ultimate goal in some ways playing how do we support each coalition in this process as a regional entity versus having our own specific policy agenda. It's so lessons learned will come in the future.
Yep. Great.
I also know, Blake, before you hop off, Summer was on to talk a little bit more around some of the local advocacy capacity we're hoping and planning to build out this year. And Summer, I don't see you yet. Oh, I do see you now that I clicked through the screen. So I'm going to turn it over to Summer.
Thanks, Sean. Blake, exciting to hear what you've been working on. And man, I wish we could just have that 7-minute zip through of everything going on in session once a week. That'd be so helpful. Yeah, so I'm here to do two things. One is to give you an update on the Leadership Institute of North Central Washington. So I filled in as site coordinator for that program over the past almost year, while Claire Odie, the Director of Community Leadership at Community Foundation of North Central Washington, was on maternity leave. And I'm just going to take, John, do you mind if I share for a moment? I want to put a photo or two up. Let me see if
Sure,
I
go for it.
sent a request there. See if I can get it to come through. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, they say, so I thought I would share a couple of highlights from the last 20 sessions of work that the graduates did together. So you'll recognize some familiar faces here. We've got Mr. Baldwin front and center here next to Representative Dent and Andrea Carrillo. A lot of you will know her work in Grant County in early childhood education, and then the rest of our cohort and facilitation team here for a session that we did on how state government works. I wanted to give a quick reminder of what the Leadership Institute is. So it's a 20-session curriculum that's focused on developing personal leadership skills and also civic leadership skills. So it's divided into 2 sessions. The content here that I'm showing on the screen is a little bit more focused on that second 10 weeks, that the building blocks of civic participation and civic understanding. This is a session that we did on public policy, where we just barely scraped the surface of what public policy is and how it works and how to get involved in shaping public policy. We hosted the Leadership Institute classes in the City of Ephrata Council chambers every week. So that's what you're seeing here is a mock hearing on our public policy day. The graduates or participants also go through a lot of pair work and small group work, because one of the outcomes that we're aiming for, in addition to various kinds of skill building, is relationship building and how to equip people to work together and champion each other's projects across time. We also did a day on coalitions and how coalitions work. You might see another Thriving Together member of your team here. Wendy came out for that to talk about the Ephrata Forward work, as well as a bunch of the prevention coalition leaders across Grant County. Something really special about the Leadership Institute is we aim to remove as many barriers to participation as we possibly can. So each session starts with a family meal. We have childcare set up so that it's very easy for parents to zip in after work and participate. And I wanted to give you a quick sense before I show the graduation photos of how many organizations and individuals came together to make the leadership uh, class and program possible. So I apologize that this is small script, but that's how many people we had to thank on our program. So facilitation team, here are our major donors, including Thriving Together. Here's a list of all the guest speakers that we had across our classes. We had an interpretation team, so we do simultaneous interpretation in English and Spanish, and that also helps build relationships across culture and across difference. A huge thank you, of course, to Ephrata City Council, and the City of Ephrata also gave us free access to their recreation center every week. So we were able to come, congregate, have dinner in the rec center, leave the kids set up, and then walk across the alley to council chambers for each class session. The Columbia Basin Foundation was a tremendous partner in pulling together all of these organizations, service clubs that helped put our family dinners on. And they also worked to secure discounts at local restaurants. At our final graduation, and several of you were there. Veronica, it was so fun to have you there, John too. And if I'm missing someone, I apologize. But it was a really abundant, fun celebration. And we had a couple of members of the Community Foundation team give supply headshots. So we've got every graduate has a professional headshot that they can use with LinkedIn and as part of their emails or whatever they need those for. And then, of course, a big thank you to those of you who have been part of our civic design team, the committee that helped make the curriculum or helped adapt the curriculum and right size it for Grant County so it would resonate there. So really thankful to the whole civic design team. I won't play this video, but it's a walkthrough, a pan through of every single community project. So every individual who participated in the Leadership Institute also came up with a community project that is something that they're passionate about and hoping to bring to fruition in Grant County. Some projects were already accomplished throughout the duration of the Leadership Institute, and then others, such as this one, a dual language immersion program at Ephrata High School, might take 5 to 10 years to bring about, or might change shape and change forms across time. So we've got all sorts of levels of projects underway. And then I'll show you a quick glimpse of our celebration ceremony before I move on to the legislative advocacy work that we'll chat through in a minute. But want to thank again Thriving Together, your team, and your decision to fund this program. It really is the heart of, I think, civic engagement right now across our 4-county area. And I'm so excited that it's headed to Okanagan County next. Any questions about the Leadership Institute before I switch gears?
Just a quick question. This is Emilio. Who does your translating to Spanish?
Yeah, so we have interpretation English to Spanish and Spanish to English. Isabel and Anna, who are part of Cafe's interpretation team, they both work out of Confluence Health. So they're medical interpreters by day. And then they they jump in the car and drove an hour to Ephrata to interpret every night for us.
That's awesome. I know I get a lot into the syntaxes and the grammar of things in Spanish, especially, because the way the context, the way something is translated is literal, which is very typical of medical. So, but I'll talk to you on the side about this. I think that just give you, and I had these discussions with Cafe, because we might translate things a certain way, and they're correctly, literally translated, but it doesn't convey the message, you know. And I'm not talking about the simultaneous translation when on site when you're doing a class. I'm talking about written materials, you know.
Mhm.
So I'll
We're
chat with you.
very, yeah. Well, I'll just mention we're very lucky that we work with the Parent Leadership Training Institute for our curriculum, and they have worked to create mirrored materials in English, Spanish, and have done audits to make sure that the Spanish language, the civic skills, all the civic building blocks are interpreted correctly in Spanish. Because you're right, Emilio, that can be a language gap for someone who maybe does medical interpretation for a living. But
Thank you.
yes, let's nerd out about that sometime soon because I've learned my
Yeah,
Spanish has improved so much through this too.
I'm still learning English.
Any other questions or comments? I would receive a few reactions that we did a Grant County cohort. So if you want to throw me out a little applause reaction, you could go heart. You could go, let's see, what else is there? Yeah, you got it. Here's a rocket ship. It was really exciting to see that work move out across Grant County. Thank you. And so the next item I have to share with you today, and John or Teresa or whoever was managing share permissions, you're welcome to put that other document back up. We can walk through it together. Blake and John and Claire Odie from the Community Foundation and I have had a couple of meetings and chats about what it could look like to have a legislative advocacy fellowship. That if you think about leadership development and nonprofit development in our region, could be like a 201 class to the 101 class of the Leadership Institute. I'd say at the Leadership Institute, we just barely scraped the surface of the building blocks of civic participation. So this is a framework that Blake put together and that we are thinking through as a possible opportunity to present to the region. So I wanted to give you a quick overview of the possible timeline for a legislative advocacy fellowship and also what the higher level topics of each class could possibly be. And I will say that we're taking some time to talk to a lot of local partners across the region to see what the appetite is for this program, if it's a good fit at this time, and if it would be good use of Thriving Together advocacy funds. So the way that this draft of the fellowship framework is currently structured, June would kick off with an orientation that talks about the mindset of advocacy work and a refresher on how state government works. This may include some pre-reads, some videos to watch outside of class, and then some discussion work within the class. Right now it's envisioned as a monthly program rather than the Leadership Institute, which was a bit more compact and a weekly and sometimes even twice a week program because we would have those Tuesday night or Tuesday classes and then sometimes Saturday classes too. This is framed as a monthly class with more work to do in between sessions. I'm going to keep this really high level, John, so you can keep scrolling down to July and we'll just go briefly through the months. July would be a focus on federal government and its connection to local issues because you can't talk about what's going on in the state without some understanding of what's happening at the federal level. From there, the August session could possibly look at defining policy problems. So the difference between problem statements and solutions, and then using data, community stories, and lived experience. Also starting to talk about coalition work. September would move from the policy problem to developing policy solutions. So exploring the policy levers and options to solve problems, incremental versus transformational change, cases to be made for both approaches, and then learning from other models in terms of how other communities have developed policy solutions. Then in October, the focus will be on building an advocacy strategy. So identifying decision makers and influencers, power mapping, who to engage and how, a more deeper dive into coalition building and coalition work, engaging the media, lots of great components that would go into the advocacy strategy session. Then in November, the focus would be on communicating with policymakers. So, how to frame messaging, how to use personal stories responsibly, and then those materials that you need to communicate with policymakers. So, one pagers, memos, talking points, etc. And then in December, did we make them have something over Christmas? Oh, we did. Preparing for Olympia, because there's a big Olympia visit scheduled in the new year. So topics will include legislative session overview, scheduling and conducting meetings, what the etiquette is when you go and participate in session, how committees work, what the processes are, how to prepare and provide public testimony. And then it culminates with an Olympia advocacy visit in January, meeting with state agencies and officials, state legislatures and staff, tour of the Capitol building, and then depending on what comes out of the sessions and what the group puts together, possibility of providing public testimony around the work that the group does as part of this class. We're imagining this as a pilot, so something that could continue year after year or maybe every other year. There's a lot of different ways that this could go, but we think a pilot it would be a really great way to start so that we can work on a curriculum together and then have the opportunity to continue to adapt it and improve it across time. So this is the framework overview. And I'll just say that right now, we're not certain that we're going to do this yet. The work right now is, as I mentioned at the start of this conversation, is reaching out to local partners and finding out what their take is on this. Is this something that's desired? Is it needed? Is a way that we are envisioning the framework? Does it resonate with those needs across our region? And I'm going to pause and first ask Blake what he might add to my quick run through, and then see if the board has any feedback or questions.
Yeah, thank you, Summer. Yeah, I think you covered all of it very well. It's a really exciting program to be considering. Something that and John and I have talked a lot about too in our work, advocacy work, and trying to build capacity with organizations associated and partnering with Thriving Together is recognizing, and this is something that I've noticed too over my last 12 years working in and out of Olympia and state government, is that there are some real inequities about whose voices are often the most heard in Olympia when it comes to lobbying, specifically in advocacy. Very large corporations or trade associations, more resourced, well-resourced and funded nonprofits. They have the staffs and relationships and very importantly the funding and budgets to be able to hire lobbyists and representation and to be able to set time aside to advocate very effectively for their priorities. So even in a period right now that we're seeing with significant state budget constraints, those entities still often will continue to see policy wins or even funding allocations through what's called a budget proviso. These are line items, what federal government has referred to in the past as an earmark, and you're just not seeing that same level of engagement and success with organizations and folks from more rural and small communities, but even in our urban centers too. It's a very difficult and nuanced place to and landscape to navigate, and so we just think that this would be a really great program. It's designed to just really try to help level that playing field, and will help equip some of our regional leaders with some just very practical and hands-on advocacy skills and policy literacy through this kind of grassroots training and program that Summer just provided an overview of. So it's just I think it focuses on very real world advocacy and storytelling rather than very extensive policy theory. This isn't political science 101 or even 201. It's how to tell a story to bring wins back to your community, and it's something I'm really excited to be working on with Summer and John and Claire and everyone else.
John, did we miss anything? And any questions or thoughts from the board?
I think you did a great job summarizing it. I think part of this is we're really in kind of the planning and gathering of information phase right now. So we met with I met with Blake, Summer, and Claire pre-holidays to start kind of putting this idea together. And so at this point, we're really putting together on paper kind of a draft vision of what we're looking at. And the next few months is kind of piecing it together, connecting. Summer's already talked about connecting with other organizations doing Leadership Institute to really craft it as something that could be unique and valuable to the community.
Got a note from Rena, much needed to build advocacy capacity for Frontier. Oh, it just went away. Frontier 1 areas. Thank you, Rena. Well, I know you have a tremendous, or at least ambitious, agenda to get through. You always do. You're doing so much across our communities. So I might fade into the background if there's nothing else at this moment.
Perfect. Thank you, Summer and Blake,
Thank
for
you.
giving us the updates.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thanks for taking the time to look at the two nominations that we had. I believe it was last week. Two really good candidates. The first one I'm going to present to you is his name is Benjamin Schultz, and we would like to nominate him to fill an open hospital or healthcare system board seat. So just kind of a cliff note version of Benjamin's what he is currently doing. He actually serves as the chief clinical and nursing officer at Columbia Basin Hospital. He has an extensive past of healthcare organizations that you can see if you read in detail his whole bio. Currently, he also is a major in the U.S. Air Force and ends up overseeing medical teams and directs medical missions during aeromedical evacuations. Previous roles as well as being in leadership in healthcare. He also has been in education in healthcare. He's been a dean of nursing at Walla Walla Community College, and then different professor type positions in other healthcare situations. So what we want to do is propose to approve the nomination of Benjamin Schultz to fill a hospital and healthcare system seating on Thriving Together board effective February 9th. And now, Linda, I don't know if I'm supposed to read all the rest of this or am I passing it to you, but his term will expire on the 31st in 2008. He's been vetted, the community or the governance committee approved him or recommended him to move forward. And so I pass that to you.
All right. Any questions around? Does he go by Ben or Benjamin?
I couldn't tell it. I mean,
Ben.
Question, and he said,
He went by Ben in the meeting.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
learn later on in life if he was just being kind of.
Okay. And didn't correct you. I'm just kidding. I just like to.
We asked him if he goes by better. He said that's okay.
All right. Any questions around Ben or Benjamin's nomination? Okay. We'll go ahead and go one at a time if we're good with that. Does anyone care to make a motion regarding approving Ben to join our board?
This is Ruben.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
Sounds like she made a motion. I'll second it.
Okay, so I've got Jody moved and Ruben seconded. Is that what
Yes.
happened?
That's what we
Okay.
decided.
Okay, just checking. All right. It has been moved and seconded that we approve Benjamin Schultz nomination for the board, serving as a hospital or health system seat nomination. Um, all those in favor say aye, or you can do a thumbs up in your profile.
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Oh, good job, Peter. Uh, opposed, I guess you could do the thumbs down. Oh, all right, hearing none. Ben is not here, I don't believe, but we'll welcome aboard Ben in March. All right. Yes, Joey. Okay, our next one, and Laura, you were a little gravelly a second ago. Hopefully you're not. Our next
sorry.
nominee, is she
Can you
gravelly
hear
to
me all right?
anybody? Is she good?
Can you hear me okay?
I can't hear her very well.
It's a little rocky. It's kind of gravelly.
Mm-hmm.
Fix that.
Try muting and unmuting, maybe.
Okay. That better?
Little, but
So far, it's a little better.
Lori, do you want me to just jump in?
Go for it, John.
Thanks, John.
Sorry, it just never works at the right time.
Yeah, I know.
So the other individual we're bringing to the board is Melody Johnston. She is also from Grant County. Just a little bit of background. Teresa Atkinson had recommended her to the board. She had originally looked at applying to the Grant County Health District Board, and then in conversations, Teresa recommended that she look at our organization instead. And so I had an opportunity to have lunch with her prior to the year, and then she submitted an application, and the governance committee had a chance to meet with her last week as well. She's a teacher at heart. She is actually in the aerospace industry right now, doing training and education for their organization. And so she's kind of got a little mix of teacher and business now, is where she's intersecting in. She also just has a general passion for health and well-being as a whole, and you can kind of see that in the second half of her bio there. Really just interested in finding ways to get involved and be more active in her community. She has her kids have gotten older and grown up, and she is ready to get out there and find out where she can be part of this broader work. And so the governance committee met with her last week, filling an at-large seat. They're recommending moving her forward to the board. All the same terms apply, and being appointed starting today, and term would expire end of 2028. Pass it to Linda.
All right. Any questions from the board regarding Melody Johnston's nomination? Okay. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve Melody Johnson to the board.
Second it.
All right, it's been moved by Peter and seconded by Emilio to approve Melody Johnson's appointment to the board. All those in favor say aye or thumbs up.
Aye.
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 All right. Peter's getting use out of his emojis. Opposed, thumbs down. If my granddaughter was here. All right. All right. It's been moved, seconded, and passed to welcome Melody. I didn't see Melody. I actually know who Melody is. I didn't see Melody on this call either.
She did mention that she had worked with you, Linda.
Oh, okay.
All good things.
You got a nice
Okay.
little shout out.
Okay, good. I was like, do I need to abstain here? All right, thanks, Dylan. All right, so we'll welcome both again. We'll welcome Melody and um, Ben or Benjamin when they join us in March. This is great.
And then the last one is a board member joining a committee. And so during orientation, I had a conversation with Jody about joining the finance committee. And she is interested and or willing to join, shared it with the finance committee, and the committee members agreed and approved moving her forward, and the governance committee had no concerns about it. And so we, at the start of every year, we always go through committee elections and approve members to each committee. And so to stay in track with that process, we wanted to bring her forward to join the finance committee.
Okay. Any questions regarding the recommendation for Jody to join our finance committee? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I motion. This is Ruben.
Second the motion. This is Dylan.
All right. The motion's been made by Ruben, seconded by Dylan for Jody to be appointed to the as the finance committee. All those in favor, thumbs up or say aye, please.
Aye.
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 Oh, Emilio, good
Aye.
job. Ooh. I'm sorry. Thank you. It gets late in the day and I tend to get ghouls. Opposed? Thumbs down or say opposed. All right, it's been moved, seconded, and carried forward for Jody. Welcome to the Finance Committee, Jody. It's great to have you there. All right. John, we have organizational updates. Do we have anything from the Thriving Together staff? I see Joey's on now.
Yep. So I was going to have both Kristen and Caroline provide some kind of updates so that people would get a deeper sense of some of the organizational things going on into 2026. Wendy is out on vacation, so the work under Wendy, I'm asking her, well, have her give some more details when she gets back as well. We didn't, I guess we didn't flip the coin on who was going first. So I am going to look at Kristen. I mean, a coin toss would again be a relevant thing for
I'm
today.
ready. I'm ready.
So I will turn it over to you, Kristen.
Any later, we'll start to lose interest. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. Honestly, John gave a great overview of everything. It's been a busy start of the year. I'm just going to share a few more details about a few operational activities. I think just as we reflect on 2025, close it out, move into 2026 and, plan ahead. There's just a lot of individual work planning and collaboration across the organization, working with our accounting team and support teams, and working with our program partners. So, it's exciting. I'm really looking forward to this year. We're also even looking beyond, is looking to the future. So let's next slide, please. Yeah, I'm just gonna jump into, John had mentioned these, stole a little bit of my thunder, but we are indeed leveraging technology to help increase our efficiency. And while it may seem like an easy task, Asana, I think it's fairly well known, but it actually has required, quite a concerted effort across the team to adopt it and implement it. And so I first also want to give kudos to Bailey Skinner. She's our admin assistant who's been with us only 5 months, and she's really done an amazing job at spearheading the rollout of this tool. And so, she's helping us with standardizing the processes and, coordinating activities amongst the team, providing training, one-on-one support, and for the, as a group. And so, thanks actually to the entire team as well for really putting in that extra effort, to adopt it. Because while it may seem mundane, compared to the bigger changes we're trying to make in our community, these little things can really help, just improve efficiency so that we have more time to do those other things. So I think it's going well. We've been, like I said, really intentional. It's helping us with planning, collaboration, accountability, meeting our deadlines, connects with Outlook and calendar. So all good stuff. And I kind of, just to give a little shout out to the rest of the team. It's really been a platform where we can schedule out, the dozens and dozens of contracts that we've been issuing, and helping the team, plan for the learning sessions that Veronica is organizing, the training sessions that Mariah is organizing, the monthly newsletter and the other outreach and engagement that Morgan organizes. So it's really, allowed the team to come together and see what's happening, and collaborate and be more efficient. The other platform that we're adopting this year that's exciting is Eddy, and it's an AI-powered grant management tool. We're still building the structure within it. It's, learning more about its potential, honestly, every day. Just as it is learning more about us, as it ingests more and more of the information we provide, that we feed it, about our priorities and our goals and objectives and expected outcomes. And so, as this tool learns more about us, it can help us to, number one, find grant opportunities, and so it's constantly searching the web and, collating and then providing essentially a very digestible summary of the available current grant opportunities onto a single dashboard. And then it utilizes AI to help it quickly develop grant proposals, ones that we choose to pursue. And so what are we pursuing? Well, we're just getting started, but we're really targeting opportunities that, help us to strategically infuse more funds into the region. And I know it sounds broad, but, it's according to what our priorities are. And so, we're talking about ways we can best utilize it. One is to share open grant opportunities with partners, right? So this would offer, more visibility, accessibility. We can also actively support the grant application process. And this is where the AI tool, the more I learn about it, I can see how powerful it is. We can help support partners in the region to win grants and build that funding base. And we actually already have one success. I'm proud to share. I'll let them share it at some point, so I'm not going to mention names, but that was a positive. And then, ultimately, we're hoping that we can pursue grants with partners, collectively seeking, bigger scale, funding sources that will support our region. So, oh, something else about Eddy is that as it is learning more about us, and we're essentially utilizing it as a centralized repository of our information. And so eventually that will help us to track our deliverables and outcomes and, grant management, financial management. And at the end of the day, ideally, the plan is that this can help us to report out on our collective impact as well. So, we can track individual grants and projects, but then, our ultimate goal, because, as a backbone agency, we're supporting all the great work that, heard a lot of today. We want to be able to share that back out and report on the collective impact that we're seeing in the region. I think that's all I'll say on those. So next slide, please. So my other primary update for today, I don't have too much more I'm going to share. So I did want to give a quick update though on the fiscal sponsorships. And this is not to be confused with the event sponsorships, which we also do and we are continuing. And Morgan, as our communications manager, is leading that effort. But for the fiscal sponsorships, this is a new area of growth for us and a new service line that we're trying to implement to better serve our partners. So I'd first like to give a special thanks to Teresa Davis. Her expanded role as operations manager is really, in this past year, has been instrumental in helping us to set the processes up for offering the fiscal sponsorships. And so in addition to all the, managing all the, getting all the contracts out for, our regular work, we're now also taking that on for, partners. And it's really been a bit of a, learning curve as we're, navigating this process. We did start last year, and that was when we became the fiscal agent for the coalition of ACHs. And with support from legal and our great accounting team, we're able to establish fiscal policies and procedures for the coalition, and provide contract templates and really we provided a full, proud to say we've had a full year of this fee for service support, and I think it's helped the coalition to then do the work they need to do in collaborating while we support it. So and we are continuing with that then in for 2026 as well. But I'm also excited to share that we're now supporting two other local organizations. We're now the fiscal agent for Parque Padrinos, an independent nonprofit, and we'll be providing that accounting and administrative support to help them operate, help them focus more on the direct service work they do for the community in Chelan Douglas counties. And then the other is the fiscal sponsorship for the Okanagan Chai. And with the Chai not being a formalized organization, with its own EIN, we're serving as the fiscal sponsor to allow the group to continue to operate under our umbrella, and then they can continue their great work of the impactful efforts in Okanagan County. So I think that's all I'll say on that. Last slide, please. Okay, I have one more. Yeah, I just want to bring it all together. I think a lot of the efforts I just described kind of, align with our 3-year transition plan that we introduced and developed last year, which I want to just raise this as a reminder. We developed this out of our SWOT analysis when we really were identifying our strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, to help us stay focused on our strategic priorities, like John shared earlier, and then also to help us to adapt to changing conditions, which that's what life is. So we're always on our toes and adapting, and really the plan is meant to help guide us, to build on our achievements to date and leverage our partnerships and current financial position to again help really diversify our funding sources and increase capacity, within the region, and continue to build these strong partnerships and really longer term sustainability for all of us, us as a backbone agency, and then all of the partners doing the great work, and the residents that we want us all to be thriving. So I think that's all I'm going to share. Any questions on that?
Kristen, I just want to say a thank to you and the staff on the great work on fiscal sponsorship for the Okanagan Chai. I didn't realize when we got into this what a great service it is for Thriving Together to provide, and I know we're all learning together. But it's been wonderful working with you on that piece of work.
Thanks, Peter.
Peter, thanks for learning with us. So I know being the first one, there's lots of questions.
Yeah, well, we'll get better at this, right?
And that's our hope is as we learn and we learn from each experience that our ability to grow will be there. We just have to make sure we get it right for each one of you first. All right, I think I'm going to turn it over to Caroline, and she's going to focus her updates on the Waiver Community Care Hub work.
Thanks, John. And I only have one slide I'm going to share with you all. Otherwise, I'm mostly going to share updates and then I look forward to your questions. I did want to say though, that I love hearing the updates about what's going on in the vital conditions work because I have my head down in the waiver and I heard the update today about the Leadership Institute and it was so inspiring. And so it's just nice to get my head out and like, remember there's so much broader work going on. But at that point, I'm going to put my head back down into the waiver and give you some updates about our North Central Community Care Hub work. So I don't know if you all remember, but we went through an assessment process in 2024 that informed some of our work last year, and we redid the assessment just this fall. And I wanted to share with you all just a high-level overview of the results because mostly I wanted to celebrate that there's been a lot of progress. So I'm going to help you make sense of this slide. And if this is making your eyes cross, just know that under each one of those functions, there were like a number of other questions we had to rank ourselves on. So in the column that you see here, Thriving Together 2024, that's the assessment we did in 2024 that informed our work last year. And then the column for Thriving Together 2025, it's the assessment we just did this fall that's informing our work in 2026. And all the boxes that you see that are kind of solid shading is where we were at. Stripes where we'd like to be by the end of the period. So you can see that by the end of 2026, we're really hoping to be like on the whole, like at least 75%, if not 100% of the way there with our hub maturity. And as a reminder, in this assessment, we did it together with Action Health Partners, Advance, and us because we're a distributed hub. And the progress column shows you that we've made progress in all the elements and functions for the most part, except in the healthy business functions, we still have some headway to make there. But at a high level, it's good news. We're trending in the right direction. This is an assessment that many other hubs are doing with Uncommon Solutions. It's an assessment that we do have to report some of these results to the healthcare authority as well. And it's a framework that we're kind of judged against, or like that's basically informing where we focus our priorities and growth opportunities as a hub. So I know it's a lot to ingest here, but at a high level, it's good news, trending in the right direction. Still a lot of work to go, but that's what I try to remind Advance and HP is let's pause and celebrate and not get too stressed about everything that we still have on the horizon. So we did close out the 2025 contracts with HP in Advance, signed the new 2026 contracts that you all approved last year. So those are done. I did want to provide a couple exciting updates in terms of staffing at both AHP and Advance. So at Action Health Partners, Camille Yasinich, I don't know if many of you know her. She might have been on some presentations, but she was promoted last October to Community Network Director at Action Health Partners. And that means she's going to be involved in a lot more of like the strategy and planning for the hub's growth. And she's already an awesome addition to our leadership team meetings. We also had Lisa Apple joined as the Director of Operations at Advance. And many of you heard Alia provide updates during some of our board meetings. Essentially, Alia shifted towards the end of the year to being a full-time COO for family health centers. So she's no longer really involved in the hub work. She's still providing some support to Lisa behind the scenes, but Lisa's just jumped right in, and we're really excited to have her as part of our leadership team. So those are some updates around the hub development and capacity building. Did want to remind you, so far we still have 8 care coordination agencies contracted with our hub. I'm putting in link in the chat for you so you can remember you can go to that website to see who's in our contracted network. And if and when we add additional organizations, they'll be added there. We should have our updated data for the October to December period. We should have that by the end of February. So if we don't bring it to the retreat in March, we can at least send an update out via email, John. That's what I was thinking. And our report to the Healthcare Authority for like the mid-year report is due at the end of February. So that's going to be some of the fun I dig into this month.
Caroline, it might be worth noting the reporting we're trying to do with the Healthcare Authority in partnership with Health Homes and R&P.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we actually asked the Healthcare Authority to meet with us in March and pull in some of their team from the Health Home program as well as the Recovery Navigator program, because we'd love for their teams, who I think sometimes operate in their program specific silos within HCA, to kind of hear some of the opportunities and challenges that we encounter on the ground when we're trying to integrate these programs across our network. So we have a conversation scheduled early March with HCA leadership about that. And we're just hoping to kind of advocate up and help them understand some of the challenges that occur on the ground, and see if they can help be thought partners on how to make it easier to weave together programs that are often funded separately, resourced separately. And yeah, would you add anything else, John, to that?
Yeah, and really for North Central Community Care Hub, we're folding all 3 programs under that broader umbrella. So it's really for us, they're all part of the Community Care Hub, which means in some ways, when they ask how many people is the hub serving, we rather be more holistic than just provide waiver specific data all the time. And so this is an opportunity to look at what potentials do we have to provide more of a holistic picture to the work we're doing.
Any questions about that from board members? Linda, I'm following your modeling of like the silent pause.
Very good. Oh, Rena's got her hand up. Rena's got her hand up.
Yeah, I was in Olympia last week for our network meetings, and there was a presentation from Co-Match Health. Yeah. How do they fit in to all this?
They were hired as a contractor by the Healthcare Authority to lead community information exchange efforts that are part of the waiver. And Rena, I'm not sure where they presented, or can you say more?
It was, we have 30 agencies in Washington State as
For your
part of
Community
our
Action
Community
Council?
Action.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was the executive director meeting and our legislative meetings in Olympia last week.
Yep. So the community information exchange work is happening like at a higher level than the waiver in some ways, and there's a lot of efforts to try to get information to kind of flow more seamlessly across agencies, including DSHS, including HCA, DOH. And there's a significant amount of money that is going to be used through the waiver funds to support this information exchange kind of work. And it's really just launching this year, right? So we're past halfway the waiver, but it's really getting going this year, and it's becoming clear what it's going to be, although there's still a lot of questions. And if you all want, I'll make a note, Rena, to try to, like, as we gain more clarity around what this CIE work will be, I'll make sure I insert that into one of my future updates for you all.
Okay, and they're adding community action agencies to their advisory group. So our networker is providing some input to them.
Great.
And in Rena, there'll be 2 ACHs that also sit on that advisory group. So as part of the waiver contract with Healthcare Authority, we're also required to intersect with the work that's going on with the CIE. And, to the benefit and for the state coalition, we supported and we were a partner in the RFP that CoMagine submitted to the state for the CIE bid. So we've been tied into that work and as a coalition of ACHs to help craft how it was getting formed when they were submitting the RFP, and we're still working closely with them over the course of the period.
The other thing I wanted to remind the board of is that under the waiver revenue, there's two kinds of revenue. You'll remember there's service dollars and there's infrastructure dollars. And to support the distribution of infrastructure funds to eligible organizations, the HCA required that we have an application process. So last fall, I held 3 Q&A sessions with eligible entities or whoever wanted to join, but it wasn't like an open application because only a very small subset of agencies are actually eligible for these funds because they have to be involved with the waiver. Whether it's the care coordination with the hub or the FCS program, or the nutrition supports that are rolling out. I did do some technical assistance for interested applicants, and I've been reviewing applications on a rolling basis. And I just wanted the board to know that so far we've signed 4 agreements based on applications that came in for those funds with Grant County Health District, Cafe, the North Central Washington Tech Alliance, and then Washington 211. And there's 2 more in the pipeline, one with Lake Wenatchee Fire and Rescue and one with Advance. And then we're going to continue to outreach to the other eligible entities and make sure it's still on their radar, see if they need support to apply for those funds in a way that fits HCA's parameters. The last thing I kind of wanted to let you all know that is going to be requiring a lot of our attention in the next 3 months is that we are pivoting away from VisionLink, our IT vendor. It's been a long road. We've tried to make investments and improvements, and I think it's just we're realizing it's no longer makes sense to keep trying. And we're actually going to pivot to an IT technology solution that many of the other ACHs are moving to. It's actually IT product that was developed by our sister ACH in King County. So they're called Healthier Here. And they had developed both some community information exchange tools. So it kind of links up to the CIE work arena, but then they also created a client management system. And we had our kickoff meeting with Healthier Here at the end of January on the 30th. And we hope to go live in May. And for any of you that have done technology migrations, 3 months is aggressive. And so it's going to be brutal, but it's really worth it because I'll tell you, when you look at operating a hub, the part that has been our Achilles heel is the care coordination's operations reporting, documenting the information, pulling out the data you need for reporting, but also for quality assurance. So we're actually really excited about this and hoping that it unlocks a lot of the potential we have at AHP in Advance, but in our network too. So we'll be providing updates about that, and it's going to be a challenge, but we're ready for it. We're ready for it. Last thing, 2026, I just want you all to know that what I'm really excited about is network expansion, more boots on the ground to serve more people. With better technology, I'm excited for clearer storytelling and data to show impact. And then we also know that we're going to have to start really digging into looking at the costs, like the business model of all of this, and doing some sustainability planning. So you better believe I'll be leveraging that Eddy tool for future planning. But yes, that's going to be kind of some big picture goals in 2026 around the hub. So happy to answer any and all questions you guys might have about this work. Emilio.
Yes, as a user,
Mm-hmm.
I am so grateful that you guys are redoing that reporting system. Literally, and I'm sure that you'll be including users with the planners, and because I think it's so key in gathering because so much happens that does not get covered there. And another good note about Eddie for us at CIS is we're using that system to apply for grants for resources for the Care Connect. So it's amazing how it's been how we can use all that. But anyway, good work. Appreciate your vision.
Thanks, Emilio.
Don't want to hold up the meeting or take too much of your time at this moment. But I'm in kind of a unique position of being on the board and also having a family member receiving some of the services that we fund. Um, and I would love to connect with you about timeline and stuff. Deb Miller personally referred us on November 5th. I was in contact with her 3 times a month for 3 months, and their first appointment is supposed to be tomorrow, but they haven't yet heard the location through Hub support. Oh, you did hear their location. Sweet. So I would love
Appointment with a hub care coordinator, Dylan?
yeah, it took 3 months. So I'm really
Right.
curious about system processes
Yeah.
there.
I would love to
yeah.
talk to you more about that and maybe even pull in Lisa and Cami into that conversation if you're open to that, Dylan.
I would love that. I'm kind of in this like straddly consumer board
Yeah.
member position, and I have inquiries.
Sounds good. No, it feels important to follow up on, Dylan.
Thank you
Yeah,
very, very much.
and Dylan, we want to know how the system is going and where we can improve. Because I mean, ultimately, we want to serve people better.
Thank you.
So
I'm not a tattletale, so I reached out to the executive director of the hub or of Action Health first, and then I reached out to a friend of mine who talked me off the ledge, and then another one.
Oh dear.
I don't want to just because I'm on the board go like, hey, we had this issue.
No, but I actually think that board members who have connection points to the hub, whether it's on the ground looking for services or whether it's being a like contracted care coordination agency, we want and need to hear like the truth of what's actually going on so we can figure out how to iron out the processes and where the breakdowns are, because clearly there's some breakdowns.
Yeah. And I got a personal apology note from Deb Miller saying that she was just heartsick. And then 8 weeks later, we have an appointment. So
Yeah, that still seems very slow, just so you know.
I'm glad it's not just me.
A suggestion for me, for example, having a program, a call to the director of the program or to the supervisor of that would go like to me that would be the
Emilio, we were in touch 3 times a month
Okay,
for
you
3
did.
months.
I could have
It
figured
finally
that.
went above her head.
Yeah, you did that. Okay. Because if it's ours, you call me, man.
Yeah. Thank you for hearing that.
Yeah.
I would rather
Not
have
what I
nothing
like
but
to
triple thumbs
hear, but
up.
I want to hear it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
I think so.
I'll turn it back to you, John.
back to Linda, but Linda,
back to
I
Linda.
think you're turning it over to me, right?
I am. We're going on to our open space. John's going to be creative and use the Zoom whiteboard, I believe.
I'm going to attempt this. Caroline tried to train me on the whiteboard earlier today, and I make no promises that I'm going to succeed, but we had two primary questions that we kind of just openly wanted to ask the board to gain feedback in. So I'm a little bit new user of this whiteboard too, but I do see people coming in. But instead of just opening a broader question and just having people popcorn, we wanted to ask all the board members as we're planning and looking at 2026, what is one or two priority topics you believe the board should review and discuss over the course of this next year? And we're going to give you a little bit time to think about it. And what I'm going to ask you to do is come over to this left, and there should be a tool for either text, shape. I don't see the sticky note function, which I saw last time.
It's under or above the chat function. Like there's a little.
On that left side, John, it's right above the three dots.
Oh, I might be seeing something different since I'm on a smaller laptop. So if you're on the smaller laptop, you can also do the three dots, at least for me, and type in sticky note and find it. And why don't we just take a few moments and think about, I put it in chat. I see someone asked, what is the question? What is one or two priority topics you think the Thriving Together board should review and discuss over the course of this next year? So as you've heard the updates today from the staff, from my executive committee report, from Blake and Summer, for those older board members, if you've heard updates in the past, what are a few things you want to make sure that we are discussing and addressing as a board over the course of this next year? I see a bunch of empty sticky notes. And if you're struggling, feel free to dump something in the chat or come off mute and let us know. Because this is the first time I've used Whiteboard. Anyone having issues?
So how do I do the thumbs up in somebody's comment? Just on the react button?
So I did it, but I went to the three under the three little dots for
Oh,
more
got it.
tools. And then
Got
I
it.
searched emoji, stickers and emojis.
Okay,
Then it gave me a toolbar on the left that I could add my emojis to.
cool. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Like some folks have found there's a bit of a tidier way to like the dude on the screen. There's a like tidier way to do the thumbs up thing. If you click on the sticky note and then the emoji, it'll give us like a list of the thumbs ups rather than having
Oh,
to fight for screen room on them a little bit.
oh, very nice.
This is also our way of testing the IT skill set, impromptu IT skill set of the board and me. I'm in general seeing things move around. So I'm going to say this. We're going to keep a little space open for a few more minutes. If you are done and you're just don't know what to do and you're scrolling your thing around, let's just move your arrow all the way to the right so I know you're no longer active. Oh, wow. You can still continue to put stuff in. That wasn't a cease and desist.
Do you want to move on to the next question, John?
Uh, yeah, and the thumbs up would have been a good prompt for this next question, but I think I'm just going to do this more. This is going to be less in the mural or in the whiteboard, but I'm just going to ask. So as we prepare really for the March board retreat and honestly the April board meeting, and you read some of the things that are on here that have been um, that people have mentioned that we need to touch base on. Are there a few key topics you think we should be prioritizing over the next 2 months? And I'm going to leave that to if a few individuals would like to come off mute and share their input. The thumbs up would have been perfect ranking for that, but I did not have that idea until you guys all started thumbs upping everything. So what feels urgent that we should be spending more focused time on at the board retreat and the April board meeting? Ruben, are you asking what the question is again?
No, I'm just learning how this program works and how to add things. Oh,
So, John,
Yes.
this is Peter. I'm just aware of how many new board members we have. You mentioned this, that we have, substantial turnover. So I think acknowledging that and, focusing on, board process and bringing people up to speed and on onboarding, and just, tailoring our retreat to make sure that our new members are up to speed, and if we're really looking at the way we operate as a board, this would be a good time. I mean, and making any changes, this would be a good time uh, to work, to deal with that, particularly when we have new people coming on board.
Where's that sticky note so I can up thumbs it?
I didn't put it in there. Well, I did put board evaluation in there and getting going on that board process.
I'll find it.
I put it there for you, Ruben.
You're talking about the board retreat, right?
Yep.
For me, more time to interact. Don't throw so much. Let's focus on things to work on and actually spend time interacting about it, and just, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like, this is the, let me see, this will be the third board retreat I'm going to be in this year. So, and what I notice, it's always that when board members share with each other the different ideas and thoughts and interact about it, I think that kind of produces more understanding about how to be effective in a board, in that particular board.
John, one more thing and I'll shut up. I think it's important for us to, or for you to look carefully at what came out of the last board retreat, because I think there was a good summary that resulted. And, to tie what we agreed on then into forward progress in this next meeting, I think it's important for us to, look back and realize, okay, yeah, we made all these decisions, made all these recommendations, and now we're moving forward with them. It's the continuity issue.
Perfect. All right. Any last thoughts? I think that gives us kind of a good starting point, and good input both on focusing on, and I know in the last board retreat, we had a few key things highlighted to bring to this board meeting. So continuing to bring that forward, getting board members up to speed, and ensuring we create that open space for interaction. And then we can take some of these additional comments. Rena, go for it.
Well, I was the one who posted, advocating for grants that support vital condition programs to come directly to the service provider rather than being passed through a city or county government, because we're experiencing a bottleneck there in that they don't have capacity to apply for these grants for us, but we really need that funding to be able to move some of our projects forward. It's a capacity issue. And I don't know whether that's something that Thriving Together wants to take on, or if that anybody else in this network experiences that, but I just wanted to mention it.
And that might be worth, if you're willing, having a quick conversation offline between meetings, so I can get a better sense of what you're looking at, and then we can outline that better. I got an idea, but I want to make sure I don't have the wrong idea. All right, final call for comments. And then my team, this is getting saved, right? Or do I need to download this in any way?
It'll be saved to the meeting, and I think there's a way for you to download it at that point, John.
Perfect. It says saved. Awesome. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it back to Linda.
Okay. All we have left are final thoughts before we adjourn. Do we have any final thoughts or comments Not public comment, comments from the board. I'm teasing you, Emilio. Any final comments? I want to thank everybody for your updates today. I know there was a lot, but they were very helpful, at least for me as a board member. I appreciate the time you took to be thoughtful about those, and I've got some notes for myself here, so thank you for that. I'm looking forward to the screening. I don't know if Joey's still on. I did watch the trailer, so I'm really excited about the screening and bringing my +1 with me. Um, so, right, anybody? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn. And if you think of anything, we asked you now, but if you do think of something for the board retreat or to discuss over the year, this isn't your only opportunity. Make sure you shoot John and team or myself your thoughts so we can add it to the list. Thank you so much. John, anything else?
No, I hope you all step outside and get a few rays of sunshine today, because I can't
Yeah.
promise when they'll be back.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
don't know
still
what
light outside when the meeting ends.
I know. That's the best part. Another good part. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.